Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be another First Impressions video. In today's First Impressions video, we are taking a look at the Plum PSA 104 rifle. And quickly guys, before we get this video started, there are ways that you can support the channel. Right now, the biggest way that you can help me out is by purchasing some of the shirts from the brand new Firearm Freedom merchandise drop. The link for that is the first link down in the description. A lot of fun shirts in there, some spicy ones, some awesome ones. All of them are ones that you're probably going to want to rep, so check it out, and I do appreciate the support. Subscriptions are not meaning a whole lot on YouTube these days, so if you comment down below, if you like the video, that seems to do a little bit of a better job of making sure that these videos remain in your feed. Any of that support, I greatly appreciate. This one is pretty interesting. I was looking to get in a PSA 545 for review on the channel, but they are still stupidly hard to come by. They pretty much go into stock on PSA's website and go out of stock immediately the moment that in stock, out of stock notification changes, and you just cannot get your hands on one. I swear, even when these things pop in to stock, you go to the website and they're already gone. So I wanted to get something in the AK world from PSA for review, so I started to look around, see if there was anything else that I might be interested in, anything else that might be a little bit different from all of the other AKs that I have on the channel, and I realized I don't have a 104. Now, this 104 variant from PSA is a little bit interesting. You have a side-folding stock. There's a few 104s on their website that have braces, some with just nothing in the back. And this one has kind of a funky looking muzzle brake that is actually pinned and welded into place. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but you heard me mention in the beginning, this is a rifle. So it is a 12.5 inch barrel, which is a standard 104 barrel length. This pin and welded piece here adds it to 16.2 inches. So overall, that makes the standard length to make it a rifle. So you're not going to have to do any additional NFA paperwork or anything like that to get this home in the stocked configuration. Now, as always, full disclosure, what is my relationship with PSA? They did send this out to the channel for free to check out for a little bit. You guys know I've done this in the past a ton of times with PSA, and they have always been awesome in wanting to know exactly what I think of the firearm that I'm reviewing. Is it good? Is it bad? I can beat the living crap out of the guns they send in, and they just want to know how it's working, and that's why I continue to work with PSA. Say what you will about them, but they really do care about the feedback that they get for their stuff that they're producing, and that's exactly what I plan to do for the 104 here. The rifle will not come with a sling out of box. I did add the sling. This was just a Vickers Blue Force Gear AK sling that I had laying around, so I decided to throw it on this. It will come with a standard pistol grip that is definitely a bit slim. You guys will see here that I'm rocking some Goon tape on here. Shout out to Goon Tape for sending me some of this tape to rock on some different guns on the channel. And I will say it actually does help with a small, skinny Comblock style pistol grip like that's on this 104 here. It does help just give you a little bit more to grab onto, a little bit more traction, and it's pretty awesome. But without the Goon tape, as you guys already know who are into AKs, the Comblock grips are just not the best in my opinion. So I do have a Plum US palm grip on the way. This is actually going to be my first plumbed furniture AK, and I will say it's got a vibe to it, and I really do enjoy it quite a bit. So I'm happy I did that. They have this exact same model with black plastic furniture as well, and of course you could throw on any standard AKM furniture that you want. That's kind of the nice thing about a 104 series. The 104 is typically a 12.5 inch, so shorter than normal barrel length AK, and then it is also going to have a 90-degree front sight gas block combo. But you'll notice here that the gas tube and the standard lower portion of the handguard is regular length. So all your standard Ultimax, all your standard furniture, all of that is going to drop right into this, and I think that is pretty freaking cool. But up here at the moment from the factory, you are rocking a Arsenal style, Bulgarian style handguard set. I really like these handguard sets. There's nothing wrong with them in my opinion. And it is just regular plastic. The lower portion of this handguard set does have a heat shield. I'm not sure if the upper portion does or not, but the lower portion is really kind of what matters because that's what's going to be cooking your hand if there's not a heat shield. So that's nice. It's not just crappy plastic. And they did do a very good job with a traditional plum coloring. There's a few other companies on the market, a few other US companies that try to do the plum color, and it always just, it looks odd. It looks way too purple, and if you know AKs, it's just not the right color. But for these, they got the color right, and it looks pretty good. You have a 4.5 mil folding trunnion in the back with, again, kind of a Bulgarian Arsenal style folding stock here. Now, just like those stocks, you have a button here to depress to get it to unlock when it's in the folded position. You have a button here that allows you to press in and fold the stock. That button can be a little bit tight. That is very, very normal. And then it is going to lock into place. Now, I will say, I was kind of comparing this stock side by side to my Comblock 4.5 mil folding stocks. And when I say 4.5 mil, you're simply having a 4.5 millimeter pin that's in this section here. Typically, that is Bulgarian size, whereas 5.5 mil is the Russian size pin. So 4.5 mil is a really nice pin to have here. There's a lot of different aftermarket standard Comblock stocks that will work just fine in that pin slot. When I compare this stock to a Comblock stock, I do think that it could be better. It's just one of those things where the stock does have a good bit of movement, and I don't know that that's the same on all my Comblock options, and it just it feels a little bit cheaper. Now, does it work just fine? Absolutely, it folds no problem. My only gripe about the stock so far was the fact that when it was in the locked position, it had a little bit of wobble side to side, and it was enough that it was kind of annoying when I went to shoulder the rifle. It's relatively easy to fix. So luckily we got a new AK guy in the gun shop, and he was able to put his kind of AK Slav mind to work and come up with some fixes to some problems that we had out of box. So as far as the stock, he said, and actually it worked really well, but an easy fix is just putting a little bit of duct tape in the back here. And of course you could use black duct tape because you're not going to see it. You could use Velcro, whatever you want, but having anything back in here is going to prevent any sort of play or a lot of play that the stock has when it's closed. So just by doing that, now all of a sudden the stock is pretty much rock solid when it closes, so not a big deal here. As far as the safety, you have an extended safety here, so it is very easy to get on and off of safe. However, it's not too easy that it is going to slowly, work its way up to safe when you don't want to. So you're going to have a safe and what would be an auto position here and a fire position for standard semi-automatic. Of course, the gun will fire semi-automatic in that position, and it works just fine. I really like this safety. It's super, super easy. Some safeties in the AK world are a bit rough. The nice thing about them, though, is even if your safety is way too loose or way too tight, just by bending this a little bit, you can really easily tune the safety to your gun. Everything else is relatively standard rear sight, standard front sight, not a lot of issues there. You guys heard me mention that it comes with this brake. I'll be honest with you guys, I think this muzzle brake is hideous with this like crown thing in the front. It's just, I get that they had to get it to 16, but that crown thing is just rough. Now, I will say that I would prefer this over a standard non-ported booster out in the front, because that is going to increase the back pressure on the gun a bit too much. This actually still does a really good job not doing that. So much so that I think if you wanted to leave this standard pinned muzzle brake on, I don't think you'd have any issues down the road with overpressure. It does a really good job, and it is venting just like a standard Comblock 74 brake, with these compensating ports here, so you got gas bleeding out immediately, and then you have a massive one-chambered brake here. They made this very practical if you wanted to just leave it in this standard rifle configuration. Of course, if you did want to Form 1 it, SBR it, they make it very easy to do that. You have a small pin that's down into the threads that you would just have to simply get out with a small drill bit or something like that. But I can tell you guys, it is locked into place. It's definitely pinned. I tried with all my might to get this thing off, and you can't. But it is barely kissing those threads, which is nice. You don't want it to be like nailed through the barrel, because if you do want to Form 1 it, that's going to kind of mess up a lot of muzzle brakes and different things that you want to put on there. It does come with a cleaning rod. Love the cleaning rod. I don't know why people hate on this. I love to have this with the gun. It just completes the overall look. So good on PSA for sending the cleaning rod along. They also have now these slab side mags that they're coming out with, and I love these mags so far. They're reinforced, super cool. They look great. The polymer looks real good on them, and I gotta say, comparing them to Comblock mags that I have, they're very, very similar. I think they're doing a great job with these magazines. Had no reliability problems. Out of box, you guys are going to be seeing some photos and some videos of the first issue that I had, which was I'll say, incompleted rivet. On a side folding AK, you have 2 rivets in the back, and asking around and comparing it to some of my other Comblock side folding AKs, typically these rivets are flattened, right? So they're not going to be a standard rivet. Looks about like that. It's rounded at the top. These are typically shaved off and flattened, so that way when you fold the stock is not going to run into either of these rivets, and it's going to close properly. I noticed that upon trying to close the stock for the first time, it was real tight, and I finally got it to latch, and as I was looking at the stock, the entire stock was actually bending to latch into place. That was because this rivet was not only not flattened, but it was actually very high. So you can actually still see on the stock there where the rivet was making contact. Shout out to Dalton, my AK buddy. He was able to just file down that rivet, and we got it all fixed up. Once that was filed down, real quick fix. You could just go over that like 3 or 4 times with a freaking file, and you're going to be good. Of course, now the stock folds no problem, falls into place, and that's exactly how it should be. So the bottom rivet didn't have a problem. And again, would this hurt the functioning of the gun at all? No. In no way, shape, or form is that going to hurt the reliability of the gun. Is that going to hurt the integrity of the gun? It's going to be just fine. I do think that maybe that was something that was just missed at the factory. So a little bit of a feedback there for PSA. I would just check the folding stock capability. It's an easy thing to miss. The rivet looked good. It looked fine, and it just needed to be shaved down a little bit for that to fold. Now, as far as other components, when it comes to a US AK, these are things you really got to be kind of looking into. The front trunnion is properly hammer forged. The bolt carrier is hammer forged. The bolt is hammer forged. Those are all very, very important parts to be hammer forged. The barrel on the 104s is not going to be an FN cold hammer forged chrome line barrel. It is just a standard 4150 nitride barrel. Not the end of the world, if it doesn't have a cold hammer forged barrel. As far as reliability with this thing at the range, I had only one issue that I believe was ammunition related. So we shot about 400 rounds through it for this first impressions range day, and the only issue I had was one failure to eject. and the round seemed to be incredibly underpowered. And I was shooting mainly Tula ammo, a little bit of Red Army Standard, which is basically Tula or Wolf, and it was just basically, you could see the bolt barely make its way out of the action, and that, in my opinion, is an underpowered round. I don't think that was due to the gun in any way, shape, or form. Racked the round out, got the next one in, never had a problem again. I've been seeing a lot more QC, unfortunately, as much as I love steel case, with steel case ammunition nowadays, and that's just what you're seeing, so just kind of be ready for that. There was no other reliability problems. I did take a picture of all of the internal parts before and after the 400 rounds to see about wear patterns. Now, there is one thing in that I am borderline concerned with, and that is the tail of the bolt carrier group. Now, when it comes to the tail, you guys won't really be able to see that a ton on camera, but I'll try to show it to you there, and I am going to be posting photos up. That's the only reason I'm not really taking it out for this video. But what happens is, when I drop this hammer, it is going to fall right on that tail, and when it's moving back into place, you can see the tail is going to be taking the shape of the hammer. And sometimes, when that hammer is a little bit too hard, or when the tail is not properly hardened, you can get some excess peening. Now, right now, I don't know that I'm really that concerned about it. With AKs, people get very concerned with the peening on that tail, and I've seen everything from you don't want any peening there to it looking like a freaking mushroom cloud, and people saying that's all right. From my understanding, you are always going to see wear, especially in the first couple hundred rounds, of the tail of the bolt carrier group essentially mating itself to the hammer, and once that happens, it work hardens, and then it's going to stop. So right now, there is a burr forming on the bottom, and there's a little bit of a burr forming on the left and right hand side. That's the only thing that has me slightly concerned. But, you know, again, it's slight. It's not anything that I'm really going to ding the rifle for, because I have to see how it progresses. So what we're going to do is do some upgrades to the rifle. We're going to put 400 more rounds through it and see if that progresses. If it doesn't progress, we're going to know it's work hardened into place. Never going to worry about it again, because that's just how AKs are. My com block guns have the same thing. You just have to kind of watch out for it and see when it turns excessive. If it's excessive, it might be cracking, it might be really continuing, and that might be an indication that the hardening process on that tail is just not the best. As far as everything else, the right side shelf of the front trunnion looks phenomenal. No wear there, no excess wear on the bolt. Everything else looks properly done, and I will update you guys consistently with photographs of the cleaned tail of the bolt carrier group all along the way, so that you guys can check that out. As far as how the rifle shot out of box, it was surprisingly light in the recoil department. Now, I don't know if that's just because of the dwell time with the barrel length and so on, but normally 7.62x39 out of a smaller package like my M92 is a bit punchy. I mean, you're going to know you're shooting it, and this was pleasant to shoot. It almost recoiled less than my full-size 7.62x39s, and that was awesome. I really fell in love with this thing as I was shooting it at the range. Of course, reliability was great, no problems there, and the muzzle brake actually did a pretty good job at reducing the felt muzzle rise, and then also reducing recoil. Of course, it is going to throw a ridiculous flame. You guys are probably going to be seeing that in back roll a couple of times. That's just what it is. You're going to run into that with these brakes. But other than that, absolutely no problems at all. So that was pretty freaking awesome. As far as magazines, I did try Tapco magazines. I tried US Palm mags. I tried Romanian mags, Bulgarian Circle 10 mags, and I also tried some Korean, really crappy coating magazines that always have issues fitting in guns, and surprisingly, all those mags worked just fine. I tend to not sit too much on the magazine fitment thing on one individual AK, because to be honest with you guys, each one is going to be slightly different. Everyone always asks me, hey, which mag should I get for my AK? I always say try one of that type of magazine first, see if it fits, and then buy a couple. We have to talk about the trigger when it comes to the shootability of the gun. Now, this trigger is a PSA, just marks it as a single stage trigger. I would imagine it's just their trigger that they manufacture. You got a little bit of creep. It's going to go all the way back there, and then your break. It's not really a wall that you can feel. As far as reset, this is where I have a gripe with it. It brings you all the way back out, and you know, there's the break again. The trigger, it's weird. It's not bad. It feels weird. That's the only thing I can tell you. So I got to get used to the trigger, and I don't know. As I shoot it, it might break in. I might like the trigger more. Right now, I'm kind of so-so about it. Now, it's not an Arsenal trigger. Arsenal triggers are horrendous out of box. I can promise you that every Arsenal trigger that I've had that's not the enhanced is so bad. Very, very heavy pull. A lot of trigger slap, it's throwing your finger forward. It's just not great when it comes to those com block triggers a lot of the time. This is nowhere near that. It's actually relatively light on the pull, which is not bad. It's just the reset that makes you kind of hang up a few times. And on a few mag dumps that we were doing, or a few fast shooting strings, you could definitely feel that trigger. It kind of makes you hiccup a little bit, but I'm going to keep it for now and just see how I like it moving forward. That is going to wrap up this first impressions video on the PSA 104 rifle in Plum. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This rifle is going to be quickly getting back to the range. 7.62 by 39's not as expensive as other rifle calibers these days, so while it is that way, I'm definitely going to be shooting this thing a ton. If you guys have any other questions about this rifle or anything else on the channel, please throw them down below in the description, and you guys know I absolutely will get back to you. While you're down there, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.